Hello, TradingView family. Today I am going to talk about support and resistance. This is a really important concept to understand. Everybody wants to buy the bottom and sell the top, and in order to do that, you've got to know where the support levels are located and where the resistance levels are located. Support and resistance come from people's orders. So if you can identify a level at which people have placed a lot of buy orders, that is going to be a support level. If you can identify a lot of sell orders at a certain price, that's going to be a resistance level. Support and resistance levels are key turning points because if I've got a lot of buy orders located here at $9 and the price is headed downward, all of a sudden those buy orders will all trigger and that will send the price upward. So locations with a lot of orders are going to be major support levels, major resistance levels, and major turning points in the market. And that's why it's important to know where these levels are. There are several different types of support and resistance levels that I'm going to talk about. The first one that I want to talk about is trend lines. I'm using HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise here as an example, but of course that's just an arbitrary choice and you can use whatever you want. You can see that I've drawn a trend line here that indicates where there might be support. So should the price on Hewlett Packard Enterprise begin to fall and meet the trend line right here around, let's say, 890, I would then expect it to find some support here at the trend line and turn back upward again. So this would be an important level. Trend lines are a little bit hard to play as support and resistance levels because you can see that there isn't just one price where I can set up a limit order and walk away from my computer and have that limit order automatically trigger. If the price should approach the trend line right here, then I would want to set my buy point at maybe 880, 890. If the price should approach the trend line over here, then I'm going to need to set my buy order at more like $10. So you've got to actively pay attention to trend lines, or you can set an alert. And this is one place where it's useful to have a TradingView account because if you've got a premium account, then you can set up a whole bunch of alerts on trend line crosses. I've just copied my trend line and pasted another trend line right above it. And then I can place an alert on that trend line, add an alert on extended trend line. If HPE crosses down on that trend line, then I can have my alert trigger and I can have it notify me on the app, show a pop-up, or send me an email. And then I just create that alert. And then if HPE were to approach that trend line, then I would maybe get an alert in my email that would pop up on my cell phone, and I would know to go check my brokerage account and maybe place a buy order on HPE. I want to show you how this has played out historically because I think it's pretty interesting to look at. The example down here, you can't see the benefits of trend lines, but if we just go back a little bit on HPE and set up a trend line here, you can see how this plays out. So I take the top of that candle and the top of this candle. And you can see that for a week or two, actually for about 4 weeks, this trend line offered major resistance. So I actually created this trend line on HPE. I was watching it at the time, and I created it more or less at the point we made this peak. And then I watched it for the next few weeks. You can see we tested the trend line here, got rejected, tested the trend line here, got rejected. And if I hit play, you can see we tested it again, and we got rejected from that trend line 4 times before we moved across it. And once we moved across it, then we moved across pretty decisively. So the trend line, we went down a little bit, but then we shot up pretty fast after that. You can see the trend line here, in addition to providing resistance for 4 weeks, it also provided some support here. We tried to cross back below the trend line, but we got rejected. So this trend line offered resistance, and then once the price crossed above the trend line, then this trend line became support. So these trend lines are important to be aware of even after they get broken. Let's just delete our trend lines here, and let's talk about the next type of resistance and support, which is multiples of 10 on the RSI. So I can just type RSI here and it will give me the relative strength index. The key levels on the RSI are multiples of 10. So there's the most important levels are 30 and 70. That's why this range here, this is the 30 and this is the 70. That's why that range is highlighted. But other key levels include 60, 50, 40, 20, and 80. So those are all important levels to be aware of, and those all levels can offer some support and some resistance. If you like Trendlines, RSI is a little bit difficult to play because it changes over time. 70 RSI might be at $13 one day and then at $14 the next day if you get a major price movement. Fortunately, there is an indicator that will help you set your buy and sell orders here. It's called the reverse RSI channel. It's by Shark CIA. And if I put that on the chart, then I can see they've highlighted for me the major levels. So 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. So if I wanted to place a buy order at 50 RSI, then I just look here and see, okay, so 1003 is where 50 RSI is located today. So I could just place a buy order at 1003. That would change. I would probably have to change that order a few days from now, but it still gives me, a key support level to be aware of. You can see here 50 RSI has been a major resistance level on HPE since June. So we tested it here, tested it here, tested it here, tested it here, tested it here. Every time we got rejected. Once we crossed it, it was a pretty decisive move upward. We pushed straight through that 60 RSI level. Now we're coming back down. We're testing that 60 RSI level, and that 60 RSI level may act as support for another move upward. Or we may come down back to the 50 and test the 50 again. So those RSI levels are less important than some other types of resistance and support, but they can be very significant. Key moving averages are another one. Let's pull up our indicators. I like the 20, 50, and 200. I think those are the most important ones. There are some others that people use, 5, 10, 14, 100. Those are all important numbers. There are exponential moving averages and simple moving averages. Simple moving averages are a little bit slower. Exponential react a little bit faster to price changes. I like the exponential ones, but the simple ones are significant as well. People place orders at those as well. These are useful on both the daily time frame and the weekly time frame. So you've got to be aware of where the daily ones are located as well as where the weekly ones are located. You can see here just in the last few days, the 20-day exponential moving average has offered important support for the price on HPE just over the last few days. So it's quite possible that we will bounce upward from the 20-day moving average, or that we will eventually break that moving average and come down here to the 50. These moving averages are really important levels and really useful to be aware of. Local highs and lows. So if we look historically, I'm just going to switch to the weekly here so that we can see a little bit more clearly on a longer time frame. A local maximum is, where the price is going up and hits a top and then turns down. A local minimum is where the price is going down and then turns up. So if you're aware of these local minima and maxima, then you know where historically the turning points in the price have been. And the more often that a price has turned at a certain level, the more often it's going to turn at that level in the future again. So, this price right here is one that has a lot of local maxima and minima. I'm just going to put a horizontal line there. You can see this line goes through a whole bunch of turning points. You had tops here, a bottom here, bottom here, bottom here, bottom here, bottom here, bottom here. So that has been a major turning point, especially on the buy side, where the price has been going down and then it turned upward. The thing about turning points is that turning points traditionally have a lot of volume, historical volume located there. So if a lot of people have bought or sold at that level in the past, then they're likely to do so again. They're likely to buy or sell there again in the future. In this case, most of the historical orders are going to be on the buy side. So this probably is going to be more of a support level than a resistance level in the future. If the price were to get up here, it's not like there would be a lot of sell orders located there. It's more likely to be buy orders located there. So, but it's still an important level to be aware of, because were the price to get above that, then this would become another major support level. Local highs, of course, also are significant. So you can see, we can put a horizontal line right here. You can see that there have been a couple of local maxima at this line. There have been some local minima at this line, some more local maxima over here. So this could be much more significant as a resistance level if the price were to get up to that level. I can also visualize this with the volume profile. If you have a TradingView account, then you have access to this indicator. You can generally predict where the volume nodes are going to fall based on looking at those levels with lots of turning points at them. But I can also visualize this on the volume profile with the visible range indicator. Visible range is going to, over the whole range of price action that I can see, it's going to tell me how much volume was located at a particular price. So you can see it's basically reproduced that horizontal line that we created at all these local minima. This is a price that historically had a lot of volume located at it. And you can see that the volume was predominantly on the buy side. That's what this blue bar is. So that's buying volume versus selling volume. So the orders that people placed here historically have been mostly buys rather than sells. So this, we would then know that this is possibly a pretty significant support level. And you can see here, there's a little spike right here at about the $830 level, and that is partly why we got some support right here back in October, is because we had a nice little spike on the volume profile there. Significant number of buy orders located there. And you can also see, if I just put a horizontal line here, that in addition to having some historical volume located there, there also were these, it was an important price level back in January 2016, several turning points located in this area. This low right here in March 2020 coincided with the historical lows back in February 2016. So that became a major turning point for the price when the market bottomed out in March 2020. Had you been looking at HPE for support levels and noticed this turning point down here, you might have put a bunch of buy orders right here, and you might have bought the bottom when HPE bottomed out in March 2020. So that's all for today, guys. Be aware of all of these numbers. And the way that I like to look for support and resistance levels is to identify a bunch of likely levels, put my trend lines down, put my moving averages down, put my volume profile down, my horizontal lines for all the turning points. And then if I notice a place where there's a conjunction of multiple different types of support, then I know that that's a really significant level, right? So let's say that, I had the 200-day moving average. It came up a little bit and it coincided with this volume support right here. And then my price was going to go test that level. Then I would know that's a really major key level, because there's, two major support resistance levels located there. Plus you've got those historical turning points. So we could even say there's maybe three major levels located there. So if you find those conjunctions of different key numbers sort of all clustered in one location, then that tells you that that's a really important level. And so that's what I like to do, is look for, conjunctions of several different types of support or resistance at more or less the same price. Then I know that that's really key and that there's likely to be a turning point at that price.